Hey everyone, it's B, and you're listening to another episode of the In Your Feelings podcast. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about being alone and learning how to give yourself the same love you so deeply give to others. But before we dive into that, I did just want to thank Thought Catalog and shopcatalog.com for helping to bring this podcast to life for all of you. As you know, Thought Catalog helps me to produce these episodes and ensure that I'm supported in bringing these messages to you. Shop Catalog, on the other hand, is where they sell all of their products, like my books, for example, and the books of so many other authors who have deeply inspired me. They also have other intentional products like candles and prints you can hang up in your home of popular poems. And what a lot of people don't know is that a really big portion of the work that I do with Thought Catalog, outside of my writing, obviously, is actually to help design and bring a lot of these books and these ideas to life. I really, really love bringing thoughtful and beautiful things into this world while supporting artists and creatives, and I hope you'll love them too. So if you wanted to check all of that out, you can head to shopcatalog.com, and I'll also leave the links below for all of you as well. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about being alone. I get so many messages from people who need encouragement to stop seeking validation or attention or love from outward sources. A lot of beautiful human beings express that they struggle to give themselves the same love they give to others, that they are afraid of being alone and in turn sometimes settle for less or tolerate things that aren't actually fulfilling them because of that fear. And not only do I think that that is so beautifully self-aware, but I also think that it is an incredibly powerful journey to take as a person. The journey back home to yourself. The journey into understanding that you are your own home. The journey towards being comfortable and at peace on your own and learning how to hold your own heart and hold your own space in a way that doesn't scare you, but rather in a way that empowers you. However, I know that that isn't easy. We live in a world where we are constantly being fed so many distractions. We don't have to learn how to be alone with ourselves because we never really are. Social media makes that aversion to aloneness a very easy thing to sweep under the rug. And we can fill our lives to the brim with other people, with being busy, with work, with scrolling, with so many energetically and time-consuming things that we never really have to sit with ourselves and be alone with ourselves if we don't want to. But I always ask this: who are you when you're alone with your mind? And are you happy? When the world is quiet and the distraction and the noise is stopped, what is asking to be felt? Do you feel at home with yourself? And often the answer is no. And that is why alone is considered something that is uncomfortable and something that most human beings avoid. It's difficult. It's hard to be alone, and that isn't something that you have to be ashamed of. You don't have to vilify yourself for maybe finding it hard to love yourself or to be okay on your own. On a biological level, we need one another. Human beings need one another. We need meaningful relationships. We need that interaction. It is a biological marker. It is why We have evolved and survived for so long as a species. It is why we are here. It is why we survive. Learning how to be alone does not mean that you need to shut out the world, that you need to never ask for help, that you need to be closed off and removed from connection. It's really beautiful to want love, to want to experience so much at the hands of life with the people who make you feel seen and heard and at peace within this world. But we focus so much on finding that feeling externally that sometimes we forget that we can give it to ourselves as well. Sometimes we forget that the love we have always sought out in others can first and foremost be found within ourselves. So I want this podcast to be a reminder that alone is not synonymous with not good enough. Alone is not a weakness. It is not something to be ashamed of. Alone is a gift. Alone is a foundation, a steady ground within yourself that will be there whether or not you are in a relationship or you get a good morning text. Alone is knowledge in yourself and in your hopes. Alone is a ruthless dedication to understanding your heart and fighting for what compels it after years of allowing for it to be loved in halves. Alone is not lonely. Alone is not broken. Alone is an anchoring, a healing, a reminder that the love you find within yourself will be yours forever. A reminder that you have the capacity to be your own home. I believe so deeply in learning these things, in learning how to be alone. Because often, when we are afraid of being alone, we tend to keep things in our lives that are not meant for us. When we are afraid of being alone, sometimes we settle for less than what we know we deserve or need or deeply desire because we would rather have something than nothing. We tolerate behavior or things that do not inspire us or encourage our growth or love us the way we have always dreamed of being loved because we don't want to lose what we have just in case something better does not come along. And if something better does not come along, if we don't have another human being or their attention telling us that we are loved, that we are worthy, that we are valid, then who will? What will? Learning how to be alone teaches us that even if everything external leaves us, even if the home we have built within so many things in this life suddenly shatters or disappears, we will always have the ability to step into the home that is our own heart, our own soul, our own mind. Learning how to be alone is so important because it is in our capacity to be alone that we no longer settle for things that we have outgrown. We no longer grip. We no longer seek external validation as a means of feeling loved or worthy. We have done the work to love ourselves. We have done the work to be okay within our quiet, within our calm, within our own minds. We have broken up the dirt within ourselves. We have looked the scary things in the face. We have no longer swept them under the rug. We have no longer allowed for fear to allocate our energy to things that are not deserving of it. Instead, we have faced the fear. We have grown within it. We have learned how to be strong on our own, how to build that foundation. And it is within that we start to see the things that come into our lives from a place of self-respect and self-love rather than fear. When you are comfortable on your own, the things that you allow into your heart, into your life, are only ever going to be adding to it. You are no longer allowing yourself to accept things that ask you to settle, that ask for you to be less of yourself, that make you feel like you are hard to love or like you just have to accept them because they are there. Instead, now, the things that you allow into your life are things that are growing you and inspiring you and helping for you to stay true to yourself. It's no longer a question of if someone likes you, if you are good enough. It's a question of if you like them, if they can give you what you need and what you desire. There is no longer this worry of being without, because you are never without when you know you have yourself. And from that space, your capacity to love others also increases. When we love from the place of fear, from the place of being so worried that we will lose someone, from a place of being so scared that we are going to end up alone, that is not love. I've talked about this before. That is attachment. And we know that attachment will never turn into love, because attachment is the kind of dynamic that makes us think we have to possess something in order to be happy, that we need it in our lives in order to feel fulfilled and at peace. But when we can be our own peace, when we can fulfill ourselves, when we can be our own happiness, we can then love freely and openly and with ease. We can be fully present. We can love from a place deep within ourselves, from a place of deep understanding of our hearts and our worth, and we can give so much to those in our lives from a place of compassion and empathy rather than giving from a place of fear, which is often just us trying to possess something or keep it in our lives. And just to drive this home, the most beautiful quote I have ever heard about this goes as follows: "The capacity to be alone is the capacity to love." It may look paradoxical to you, but it is not. It is an existential truth. Only those people who are capable of being alone are capable of love, of sharing, of going into the deepest core of another person without possessing the other, without becoming dependent on the other, without reducing the other to a thing, and without becoming addicted to the other. They allow the other absolute freedom, because they know that if the other leaves, they will be as happy as they are now. Their happiness cannot be taken by the other, because it is not given by the other. I love that quote, but it's not lost on me that no matter how beautiful these words can be, and no matter how empowering it is, it's still scary. It's easy to say, just love yourself. It's easy to scream that into the void. and everyone sometimes says that, but I understand that it is so much easier said than done. And so I also want to acknowledge that. Don't get me wrong, this journey back home to yourself, this journey into learning how to be alone, it will be really difficult at first. I mean, studies have literally shown that people would rather administer an electric shock to themselves than be alone with their thoughts for 15 minutes. There is such a human aversion to being alone because we are so stimulated. We are so convinced that we always have to be seeking our happiness outside of ourselves. But at the end of the day, there is a lot of beauty that can be found from committing to yourself and to committing to working through that discomfort. We literally grow as human beings when we do this. And not just on a heart level, but biologically. We genuinely reframe what self-love is. We genuinely reframe what it feels like. And what I mean by that is, on a biological level, when we work through things that are creating a stress response like discomfort within us, when we commit to a task or achieving something and we push ourselves through it, no matter how hard or uncomfortable it is, it actually creates a dopamine reward system within our brains. We are literally learning how to reward ourselves, not at the end goal that feels positive and amazing and is obviously going to elicit happiness. Not externally, but within the act of committing to something deeper for ourselves. Within the act of committing to being better, to doing the work, no matter what. That act of self-love, of self-dedication, of knowing that you are working towards something that is going to make you better actually creates a happiness response. And that is how we teach ourselves how to be okay in the discomfort. And it slowly becomes something that becomes less uncomfortable. And when you put it all together, that means that our alone slowly becomes a beautiful place to be. We just have to commit to it. And so, in understanding that, no matter how scary it is, this is your encouragement to be alone for a bit. To start leaning into your own soul. To finally sit with yourself and listen to your needs and know yourself. To do the work. If the idea of being alone scares you, that is when you know that you need to remind yourself that you are your own home. That is when you know you need to start learning how to give yourself the same love you seek externally. That is when you know you need to quiet the distractions. You need to be okay in your own company. Because it is better to be alone than to be with someone who makes you feel lonely. And it is better to be alone than to be settling for things that you know deep down are not for you. It is better to be alone than to make love into something you feel you have to grip at, something you have to possess, instead of something beautiful and soft. It is better to be alone than to lose yourself in the need for external validation. It is better to be alone. I promise, and I believe this with every inch of my being, the love you find within yourself will be yours forever. And maybe we have to reframe what love means in this society. Maybe when it comes down to it, love is not about chasing another human being, but rather maybe love is about chasing yourself, chasing your growth, chasing your own hope. Maybe love is about learning how to be gentle with yourself, how to believe in the way the universe has removed certain people from your life. And maybe love grows within you when you learn how to trust your own heart, when you learn how to walk away from things that have not cared for it. Maybe love is about learning how to accept that sometimes even beautiful things end, that sometimes the timing isn't right. And maybe love is about learning that endings aren't something to regret. Maybe it is about learning how to let go, how to appreciate the things you experienced at the hands of caring that were real and hopeful and light in a world that sometimes fails to be soft. Maybe love is about learning how to be alone. Maybe it is about learning how to wake up in the middle of the bed, how to make just one cup of coffee in the morning, how to hold your own heart, how to take up space. Maybe there's beauty to be found in falling in love with your growth, in learning how to stop filling voids with other human beings and instead, in slowly having the courage to heal those voids yourself. Maybe love is about learning how to be proud of the person you are stretching into, is about embracing the beauty and the depth that exists in trying for something while you are here. And maybe within that, love is about honoring your own heart. Maybe the truest and most honest extension of love exists in the way you learn how to love yourself. Exists in the way you learn how to be compassionate towards the parts of yourself and your journey that no one else claps for. Maybe love exists in the way you fight to be here, in the way you crash your own heart into this world. Maybe love is about you, being your own strength, being your own safe place. Maybe when it comes down to it, love is about finally learning how to give yourself the same love you so beautifully give to others. Maybe love is about embracing the person you are becoming and believing in your heart on even your hardest of days. Okay. Thank you all for being here this week and for listening to this episode. I really hope it helped. I hope it made you feel more empowered or even just encouraged on this journey, or maybe it inspired you to start this journey. But I do just want to remind you that it takes a really long time, and we build up self-trust and self-respect and self-love not immediately. It doesn't happen overnight. It took me so long to learn how to be my own home, how to give myself the same love I gave to everyone around me. It took me so long. And so don't vilify yourself if you find this difficult or uncomfortable. That is so human and it is so normal, and you are growing into this season and into this growth every single day that you commit to it. So keep going and know that I'm proud of you. And whenever you need a little more encouragement within that, just listen to these words.